That's another one that needs change.
I'm just of the opinion that academics is one thing, but
Okay, good evening. It's 7:15, December 19th, 2019. We're at the Littleton Zoning Board of Appeals at the Littleton Town Offices, 37 Shattuck Street, room 103 in Littleton. And called it
I gotta do something so
meeting
you
to
know I'm
order.
not perfect.
Everyone who's here, would you please sign in the back of the room, if you haven't already done so? And I'll just give you a quick overview of what's happening tonight. We had a 7:15 scheduled hearing that will open to postpone it, so the 7:20 hearing should take off on time. And we don't have a 7:25 hearing after it, so everyone will get their be heard fully.
Sorry.
Do you want to go over minutes, because we have to wait until 7:20 to open it? Has anyone reviewed the minutes from last meeting? All of you, right? I just
I think
wanted
I
to
did.
make a comment that the one variance that was granted, what I would ask you to do is just put into the minutes the criteria for variance that got met, so that it's clear in the minutes when someone third-party reviews it. And you can lift it right out of the decision. You put it,
It
wasn't clear.
the decision.
oh, it needs.
Wasn't specified.
Yeah, for anybody
twice.
writing decisions too, when you write a variance decision, you need to call out the criteria that was met in terms of owing to conditions particular to the property, soil, topography, et cetera.
okay.
And that'll be discussed tonight, I think, when you open one of the hearings that's looking for a variance. So,
I didn't see minutes.
if you wanna wait, maybe I can jot some things to you. I'll go back and pull it out of the, sometimes it's hard to hear because you guys are
Thank you,
doing
dear.
Five people writing the motion at the same time, and it's hard to remember, to figure out which is the one you really want to use.
Well, I think I can just do something right now. The property is unique in that large, it's a, in that it's a large lot that abuts, was it residential on the front and commercial industrial in the back?
It was,
It
the
seems to me
railroad
it was
tracks.
also an insurance company requirement to have the fence that high.
Right.
I'm serious.
Did she say that?
She said
Yes,
that,
she
yeah.
did.
She did say that.
Because we questioned her why you needed an
Why you need
8-foot
8-foot fence? She
Oh,
said
I'm
insurance
sorry,
company
I'm
wanted it.
mixing it up with the, no, I'm mixing it up with the other place, the
Soaring Hook.
Soaring Eagle, yeah. So she said it was an insurance, property unique in that it abuts the railroad tracks
And the creek.
and the creek, and
It's an insurance requirement.
there is an insurance requirement to fence it.
Doctrine for training, you don't want to get away.
And then,
And I was worried about there being barbed wire above or something, and there will be no.
without
Well, that's
the
good, just the one
relief,
they gave us.
she may not be able to conduct her business at the site, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's sufficient, I just need it called out.
Okay. Are you gonna open and close the 7:50, or continue
Yes.
rather?
Thank you. All right, so let's take a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I so move.
Second, please.
Second.
Yep.
So
Wait.
Jeff, and who was second?
There it is.
You have another change?
Yes. The part about my asking if Google could clarify recusing oneself was not part of that hearing. That hearing was already closed on 30 Taylor Street. That was more of an administrative question.
I think it's already done. If you look on page 1, it says voted 5-0, and then there was a paragraph about board's consistency regarding fences and setbacks, and then Gould asked. So those are two separate paragraphs, okay?
It looked like they were part of it.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second from, was that?
Sure.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to open the hearing number 938A. Whoops, wrong, sir. I'm going to open the 7:15 hearing, case number 937A. The petitioner, Charles Bell, seeks a variance pursuant to 173-167 for an express waiver of the 3 acres lot size requirement to be included in the overlay district for 474 Great Road. We have a letter from counsel. Sadly, the attorney representing Mr. Bell in this matter died unexpectedly, and the woman in his office that will be taking over the case has asked for an extension to bring herself up to speed on the matter. I think it
January 17th at 7:25.
requested to be continued to January 17th at 2020 at 7:25. And we have received a letter from the applicant's counsel that they are extending timelines for hearing it and for deciding it and the companion case, which is the building inspector's appeal, both of those until 30 days at least after that date.
So we have no problem with the deadlines.
We have no problem with the deadlines. So I'll take a motion
Before you do, I do have one question. Wasn't he going to go to the planning board and find out about the overlay district and getting some modifications?
There is more or less, there is stuff in the file that already satisfies that, I think. So that was a good question, but I think that we got a letter from the planning board. Did you find it in the file?
I've spoken with Maren several times.
And she didn't send it? Okay,
She has said there's nothing.
all right. I will, I'll reach out to the planning board to see if we can have that for the hearing. It's only 6. Thank you, Bill.
Motion?
Okay, so motion to continue to the 17th at the time certain, 7:25. All those, motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we continue this hearing to the 17th of January at 7:25.
And second?
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye. We have to do that twice?
Not now.
Okay.
And
Who
will
did you
you
have?
remember to open and continue the next one and interrupt the hearing to do that and then finish your hearing?
Open at 7:25?
Yeah, roughly.
Okay.
So I'm going to open the hearing of case number 938A, the petitioner James Williamson seeking a variance pursuant to section 17331, intensity of use schedule for a reduced front setback at 11 Samoset Trail, case scheduled for 7:20. And then I need to recuse myself from that case, but I'd like a motion to continue that for 4 minutes so that we can open the 7:25 and continue it and then not disrupt that case. Is that all right with everybody?
Sure.
I'll make a motion to continue the case 938A for James William,
Son,
what?
for James Williamson.
James Williamson, sorry.
So we'll hear that in about 4 minutes, okay? Anybody have any other news, information, or other matters before the board?
The Kindness Fair's in January.
What is?
The Kindness Fair. The school system, every school is doing a kindness fair. It's kind of anti-bullying, how they're always fussing at kids not to be bullying. Instead, they're going to teach kindness and friendliness and how to reach out to other people who might be uncomfortable. It's all good.
Very nice.
The financial literacy fair is still on for April 15th. If you have a skill you can offer, it's to combat teenagers running up big debt in their early 20s. Average 25-year-old or something like this has a debt of $10,000 on credit cards plus student loans. So they're doing a financial literacy fair at the school.
Give $25,000 credit.
Very easily. I gotta
I know,
tell.
it's sad, it's sad. You should not be able to get a lot of
I gotta
credit
tell you,
with credit
as a
cards.
senior in college, I got all sorts of applications for credit cards.
That's why I don't feel sorry for the credit card companies when these people, go bankrupt. It's like, too bad. Why'd you give it to them?
Have we filled up 4 minutes yet?
I think we're close enough. Time is 7:25. I'm going to open the hearing, case number 925A, which is a continuance of an appeal from the building inspector's decision. Petitioner Charles Bell seeks an appeal of the decision of the zoning enforcement officer dated April 2, 2019. Again, the letter came from town council to continue the companion case. I would only request that the two of them be placed side by side this time, so 7:25 and then 7:30. And we'll continue this one as well to January 17th, 2020 at 7:30. Can I have such a motion?
I make a motion to continue case 925A for petitioner Charles Bell to the January 17th at 7:30.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, having said that, we will now reopen case number 938A, and Mr. Yates will chair this hearing. I need to recuse myself.
So the first order of business is we have 4 voting members. We need a 5th. John, will you be the, okay? Okay, so case 938A, the petitioner James Williamson seeks a variance pursuant to section 17331 intensity use schedule for a reduced front setback at 11 Samoset Trail. Now, I want you to come forward and speak to us about your petition. We will also hear from anyone here in the room who are abutters who want to comment on this. We will also hear from the zoning officer about the very long disquisition about the history. So anyway, go ahead.
So currently have a 15-foot setback. The front entryway, the stairs, when they hit that 15-foot setback, they're about 4 feet off of grade. I sent you guys some pictures.
We have a photo.
Yeah.
So I'm asking for approximately 4 feet to build a landing and then have the stairs come to the left in front of the house down toward the garage and the driveway. Now, without the variance, I have to use natural landscape. So that means I'm gonna either have to put some sort of concrete or granite to fill up that 4 feet and bring in fill. Bringing in that fill means that now the level of where the grade is gonna be a little bit more disproportionate toward the neighbor's lot. It's also gonna bring natural material closer towards the house, increasing the chance of rot and decay. Now, I've looked over some minutes from previous meetings, and I know that you guys are pretty familiar with this neighborhood. You guys get setback variance requests a lot because of the small lots that are, throughout the neighborhood. So the 4 feet would be to build composite decking landing and stairs down.
Okay. At this point, Shelley, would you give us either rundown of,
Ask the question.
yes, well, okay, but it might be answered by Shelley's
Okay.
presentation. One of the most interesting things about this case is how the 15-foot setback came about, because I think prior to this, were not aware that certain lots in town had different setbacks based on their establishment, and I'd like you to tell us all about that.
Okay, so, this particular lot was created on a subdivision plan of Lake Manawanakie and recorded in 1945. So, section 6 of chapter 48, paragraph 4, talks about that if, that the lot goes by the zoning that was in effect when it was recorded or endorsed as a subdivision plan. So this lot's different from, say, the Long Lake plan lots, because those were never legal lots. Those were little 20-foot wide strips that people would acquire multiple lots to then create something big enough to build on. So they have to go by the zoning that's in effect currently. In 1945, there was no zoning bylaw, but the setbacks that were required was 7,500 square foot lot area, 75 feet of frontage, 15-foot front setback, 8-foot side and rear. So he's already sort of been granted that relief in the fact that that lot was created prior to 1953, when the zoning changed and the setbacks became what they are now, 30 feet front, 15 feet side and rear. Over the years, lot sizes increased up to what's 40,000 square feet now, but since 53, the zoning setbacks have been the same, the 30, 15, 15. So this one's unique in that it was a lot created in 1945. on an endorsed plan. So that's why he was allowed to have those reduced setbacks.
Does it matter that this lot had never been built on? So,
So he went through a small lot determination, which town council reviews that it was never held in common ownership. And town council deemed it to be grandfathered under that section of 40A, Section 6, that it had never been held in common ownership. And so it's entitled to go by the setbacks from 1945.
so the upshot of that is that there was already a reduced setback as part of the legal establishment of
I
this
actually
lot.
understood that. I was trying to going to ask questions about the nitty-gritty of why a 4-foot wide landing. I was going straight to the
Okay,
meat.
so let's
Unless I-
now.
Do you have anything else?
Shelley has a lot of correspondence with the applicant about this issue.
Right, so we had met with the applicant before he submitted the building permit application, and he had initially had a ZBA filing prepared for a reduced setback because it was going to be the 15 feet that it is now. And when we reviewed the application, we informed him that because it was a lot that was created in 1945, he was allowed to have the 15-foot setback, 8-foot side and rear, and we advised him to just shift the house back. At that point, he was right at 15 feet, and we said, you're not gonna meet it because of overhangs and landings and stairs. So we advised him to move the house back, and if he could meet the 15-foot setback, he wouldn't have to come to ZBA. So he went back to his design professional, and ultimately the plot plan was not changed. The house plan was changed slightly, which I attached pictures of some of the changes to the overhang, making it a smaller overhang so that it met the 15 feet. But we were more concerned with the steps based on the design plan of the house. We had correspondence back and forth that I didn't think the steps would meet the setback. And then he submitted a plan that showed that they would. And he was issued a building permit. We again put the wording on the building permit advising him that he had to meet the 15-foot setback, and that included landings, stairs, overhangs, chimneys, anything that's attached to the structure. Setbacks are open to the sky. So, we had a lot of communication back and forth prior to any construction being started on the house.
So you're saying you warned him and ignored you? Okay, got it. Anything else you need to tell us?
I don't think so.
Okay. Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. On small lots that don't meet current zoning, sometimes small lots we have to allow them to be legal lots. If they have as much as 50 feet of frontage and in many cases, we have to allow variances for setbacks for a house to even be built, and yet we must allow it. Is that, I'm not phrasing that well.
I don't think that's the case. I think that, I don't think we have to do a variance. I think that if it's demonstrated that with a septic system and I don't think that impacts this particular application because there's,
How big is this lot?
the lot is 7,500 square feet. The house does not go from setback to setback. There's quite a bit of space. For instance, you could have pushed the house to the right and put the stairs up the side of the house, and we would have not had this issue.
Why is the house so far forward?
The house is so far forward to meet the requirements that the house has to be from the septic system. When we originally were speaking about the 15-foot setback, what we did to try and overcome the issue was we pushed the entrance back on the left, so that the entrance is indented on the left side of the house. We removed a closet inside the house to push the entrance even farther back.
I see, and you anticipated that would allow the stairs to be enough?
Right, I didn't anticipate that the grade would have to come up as much as it does, and that's where we ran into the issue.
And you didn't listen to our very wise zoning enforcement.
Well, then we
officer.
did, in late September, he did come back into the office, and we talked about, he, at that point, said he didn't think he was gonna be able to meet the setback, and asked if there was a landing and then stairs down to the driveway, whether that would be required to meet the setback. And it would not, because that would not be part of the structure. So if the stairs could meet the setback, and then he had a granite landing and then landscaped stairs down to the driveway, that would be fine. And that was where we presumed he was gonna go.
Because then
with
the
it.
stairs would be totally separate.
Right, they wouldn't be a part of the
The
structure.
house.
Right.
Why is the granite landing not part of the, I don't understand the logic there.
Because it's not attached
It's not structure,
to the structure,
That's
it's
right.
permanently
Grading.
attached.
patio,
Just sitting grading, okay.
it's dirt.
So, I guess, first, let's entertain questions, but since Cheryl has started with this, then we'll go to abutters.
Okay.
Do we have any more questions from the board?
Just
at this
one.
point?
The application says 11 Samoset, the drawings say 72, which is,
11 was the number given to the house when I applied for a building permit. The lot is 72, the number of the house is
The
11.
map and parcel.
well, the lot here says lot 88.
The lot 88 is from the recorded subdivision plan, 72 is the parcel from the assessor's map and parcel, so map set 47, parcel 72. So when he was having these design plans done, the assessors hadn't assigned a house number to it.
Okay. Are there anyone present who would want to speak to this?
Would anyone like to speak?
Any neighbors?
You need to identify yourself
My
and,
name's Ann Bauer, I live at 12 Samoset Trail, and I'm just not too savvy about, the town owns 10 feet within our lot, is that true? As far as,
It varies based on
So-
over down. That's
so
it.
based on that, I just didn't, I mean, if the house is so close to the road, that's just what is so overwhelming to our neighborhood, and it was just, you know. I
Looks
don't
like a
know.
very tall house.
It is obstructively tall and just so close to the road, it's just, it's horrible. It's just horrible, and what we've had to go through with the town, water put in and all of that, we're still dealing with that. So, you know, no, if he wasn't listening to what he should have been doing in the first place, I don't know.
So to answer your question about how much the town owns, basically, going to this plan, if you measure just a little over 15 feet from the edge of the foundation toward the street, that's what the town property line is, wherever
So
that falls.
Is it almost up to where his stairs are? I mean.
No,
I-
no.
No, it's the other way around. You go from the house toward the street
Okay.
15 feet, and that's where the town property owns. So I can't tell you, from looking at the plans, where it is, but it's, probably somewhere near where
He
that
had
tree is
these-
cut off.
The town owns 15 feet away.
But
The town doesn't own 10 feet onto your property.
Oh, I thought
It-
that's how it went.
No, it isn't.
No.
That's not how it works. For example, I know on Foster Street that those people own right up to the road. And that's why they're able to plant trees between the sidewalk and the road.
Okay.
And et cetera. So it,
So it varies throughout town, depends when the street was built. A newer street would be a certain, like 24 feet of asphalt, where the right-of-way would probably be 40 feet, and so there'd be a sidewalk, and sometimes the roadways, they
Right.
try to put it in the center, that's not always in the center, depending on what's going on. And so it varies, you really have to go down and get a map that shows where your property line is, and you can actually measure it if you want.
Okay,
so you probably own right up to the road.
okay.
They usually may not.
May or may not.
well, this is a 40-foot.
Yeah, it says 40 foot wide, so they don't know up the road, the road's only 24 feet wide,
Oh.
maybe 25.
I'm Karen White. I'm
Okay.
at 15 Samoset Trail.
Yeah.
So when you say the small lot allowance, or whatever the phrase you used, does that not indicate a small dwelling? Because this house is enormous for the amount of the size of the lot.
How many square feet is this house?
Finished square feet, it's just under 2,000.
It's, it
So
seems-
we don't
it's so
have any
much
zoning.
bigger than the other
We don't
houses.
have any zoning that, we talk about setbacks, we talk about overall height, but we don't have any limitation on the size.
Size of the house itself.
And is
And,
there
and by
a-
the way, it's always an issue, especially in the lake area, when these projects come up, but there's no zoning that.
Is there a did you say something about a height?
Yeah, isn't there
Yeah.
a 30-foot height?
It's 36.
32 feet median height, so it will show on when we get the as-built plan, but the backyard at this house is elevated, so they meet that median grade because the back is
So the height is from the median grade, and is it to the top of the ridge?
the gable.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have the exact wording, but it's not.
Okay. So yes, 32 feet. Go ahead.
Yeah, Vinnie Brew, 16 Neshoba Trail. So, in some of the comments Karen and Ann just made, this house would look great in Cambridge or Somerville. All right, you know, you look up at this thing, it's right on the street, and I apologize because I have trouble hearing, but if I understand correctly, months ago, James knew that this house was too close to the street. Is that the gist
So
of what
the
I?
house is within the setback, but he knew that the steps.
So he knew the steps
May
violated the
encroach
setback?
into the
Okay, so he
setback.
knew this months ago, right? Now, the street's been torn up. It's never gonna be the same, okay? I don't know how much did that cost? Who paid to tear up the street and run water 150 feet down the street?
And then put it back.
Who paid for that?
But you talked where they run the water to.
The house.
James, maybe
Oh.
James could tell us, who paid to cut the whole street off?
You have to go through the chair.
Well, I don't know, but typically it's the water department would pay for it because they're creating a new customer.
And there's usually a betterment
The
involved.
water
with-
department pays for that? So the taxpayers?
There's a betterment involved, so that the owner of the house would pay the betterment, which would then, so basically that buyer of the house, the owner of the house pays for it in the long run.
Okay, that's not just the $8,000 to hook up or whatever.
That's the
That's,
$7,500,
I mean-
that's the $7,500 fee for.
the trench they dug had to be 150 feet long, down the middle of the street.
I know that the town voted a couple of years ago to put town water in that area.
I don't know, and it's not really the subject of this meeting.
No.
I understand.
I know that it
But-
adds to.
I understand, but
Yeah.
here, follow me where I'm going here. James is filing this petition because if he has to bring in soil, there's added cost. I believe that's what it actually says in his petition. So, I'm going, okay. It would require a lot of fill. You know, I also attended
Is
town
the
meeting.
owner of this house here?
Yeah,
That's you?
no, I'm sorry.
Can't see that. It's our
No,
house.
that's the whites,
That's
right?
our house.
That's 15
Well,
cents.
He's saying that he would have to raise the soil level so high that the grade between your house and his house and the runoff, I don't think you want that.
No, I don't.
Well,
No, I was
but
in
then
front
why
of the car.
doesn't he take care of the runoff? Why, if James wants to build this house, why should he inconvenience the other people in the neighborhood? This is the cost of doing business.
And our septic tank
And
is
it
right
should have
near
been
that
planned
area.
properly, and it wasn't. And he has two other lots adjoining this that he wants to build on as well. And that was his dad's parting gift to the neighborhood. He made a comment to someone. I'm leaving, I give you 2 or 3 houses. And this is, yeah, James, this is not you. This is your dad working here. And, okay, so I don't begrudge James developing the house and putting the house on the lot and turning a profit on it. But how much does it cost that the taxpayers are paying for that trench to come down the road? Okay?
Well,
The town meeting, you understand my
I
frustration?
understand, but before.
So
you-
hold the developer responsible for the cost
your
of his
tax-
project.
You realize none of your taxes go to pay the water bill.
I'm sorry?
The water company gets no money from your taxes. They get it from your water bill. So it's not the taxes going, put the water line in.
So our water
The
bill goes
water
up?
company put the- Yes.
Oh, great, okay, so the water bill goes up, okay.
That happens in any town or any city. The water company extends stuff. But like they say, they
But there's
usually
a
charge the
betterment
customer.
charge, they
to
charge
pay
the
for all
customer.
that.
But that's not our purview.
That's not our purview.
We can't, there are things we cannot address.
So
We
I think-
cannot address design, I'm sorry. It looks like way too big tall a house for this neighborhood, but we cannot address design. It's not, our zoning bylaws do not limit that way, and nor is it our purview to do so.
So,
However, in general, your comment is that the developer should bear the cost of his project.
Yes.
And what he's asking us is relief from,
The relief from the,
to help with costs.
because he knowingly put a structure with the design that was going to violate the setback. And he said, you know what, I'll just go get a variance. And if it inconveniences the neighborhood, no big deal.
Okay, yes, sir.
my name's James White, I live at 15 Sampson Trail. And I think one of our major concerns is one, as everyone's discussed, the size of the house and the close proximity of that septic system that is to our property, because our septic leach field is right next door to that house in the side yard. It's complete lack of privacy. I mean, I have a picture here, if I can bring this to show you. This is out of our side window, bay window in our kitchen. And that, he's got two windows up here that are up on that third floor.
Because
second
they're so
floor.
high.
And the first, that window right there, there's absolutely no privacy from our standpoint. They're looking right down into our house, into our kitchen. We're in the process of excavating. We've had a wire run around the house for an invisible fence for the dogs. That's done a somewhat good job of keeping them confined to the yard, and during the process of excavating, the guy ripped, and there were clear boundaries, clear lines of where the property lines were. The guy dug up this wire, and now my system is shot, it's down, and it's probably gonna cost me a couple $100 to replace it.
And the
So-
dog fence is 3 feet
It's
in
3
from our
feet,
property line.
3 feet within our property line, so this family's had a history of encroachment. Been living with it for years. Either side of that property has been encroached upon, and this is just one more example of that. So we're very concerned about, the size of it, how close it is, the lack of privacy, the
leaching
problems that may occur from someone running that septic system next door. All kinds of possible issues that may arise, and probably will.
Address that.
Sure.
If you destroyed your personal property, you should call the police. You should file a police report. You should take them to small claims court. We cannot address that. I wish we could for you.
I'm just telling you the concerns. that we
I
have.
understand, but if you destroyed your personal property and came on your property, you should talk to the police. You should file claims in small court for destruction, and we are not the place for relief on that, I'm sorry. We can't, there's nothing we can do to help you on that.
However, I would say that in general, our board, we try to work with the applicants. And we're very sensitive and respectful of a butter's opinions. There are applicants who come before us wanting relief from something or other, and their butters come and say, do it, we have no problem. This does not appear to be that case.
That being said, we can't very well make him tear down the house. So, what would work, what solution would work best for you folks? I mean, if he brings in all this dirt and rocks and stones and builds up the dirt level sort of like this and puts in some kind of retaining wall, that doesn't seem beneficial to you. It seems like it would maybe direct more water off that way.
I believe that
It
would
just,
be-
that doesn't seem like it would benefit you or help you in any way.
Yeah, but either way, whether we give him permission, he builds a wooden landing instead of stairs, or we don't give him permission, he brings in felt and just makes a granite or concrete sidewalk up to his existing staircase.
Ours
He can do that without anybody's permission. So what she's asking is, do the abutters who are upset about what's going on, which way would they prefer it to go?
If he can do that, and we can't judge that, but, and we're not really worried about saving him money right now. We very rarely worry about saving a developer money. We do worry about abutters a lot. So, but what would work for you? I mean, it doesn't seem beneficial to have him bring the soil levels up that high.
I want to push back on that.
Yeah.
Because it's just not that big of a deal. We're talking about
About 3 feet, right?
maximum 3 or 4 feet.
A retaining wall. would
A
keep the water
retaining
running.
wall.
Excuse me, but it's gonna be a big deal if we get runoff into our.
Well, there
The
is,
field.
Shelley, you can comment on that, but there are things called swales, there are definitely techniques that can keep the water from running off onto your property. We're talking about an area that might be as big as the indent of this table. It's not a big area. And what the issue about this is that this was avoidable. And we do have, for new construction, a somewhat policy of if it was avoidable, relief is hard to get because you could have planned it differently.
I mean, I will be the first to say that if I was gonna do it again, I would change where the entrance of the house is. I didn't expect that I would have to bring the fill up as much as I do. I'm just trying now to build the nicest house for the neighborhood, and so that people who come in, they have the product that, is gonna suit them best. And I think that this variance and the composite decking is the best solution to where we are now. I can bring in the fill and build the staircase, build the walkway out of granite and concrete. I just don't think that's what's best for the neighborhood. I don't think that's what's best for the future owners. And so if that's what you guys wanna do, that's fine, and I understand, I would do it differently if I was gonna redo it. I would change the design of the house so that I wouldn't have this issue.
We have another butter who wants to speak, that hasn't spoken yet.
Yes, sir.
Dick White, 23 Neshoba Trail. How much fill are we talking? And maybe the building inspector can give me an answer on this, but I believe that you cannot create a higher grade on your lot and have the water go off onto somebody else's lot.
This is true.
Very control the street.
It has to be, either that or disposed on the property itself.
So how much fill are we talking?
I couldn't,
Couple of yards. I mean, James, how many yards do you think it is?
That's, it's a problem that I'm gonna solve once I figure out what the decision is here, so I'm not sure yet.
Janet Way, 23 Neshoba Trail.
Yes.
Where is his septic system gonna be? Because our system is in the back.
yours is in the
We
back
we
also.
butt about him as well. So where is his system
His is
gonna
in
be?
the
Is it
back.
gonna back up to
Has it been
mine?
installed?
It has not been installed, it's gonna be in the back of the house.
Near ours or?
Well, it has to be like 10 feet away from the property line.
Has to be what?
I believe
I'm
that
sorry?
your,
I think it has to
your
be 10
lot
feet off
is
the property line.
on the other side, so the lot doesn't connect.
And then there's gonna be, and then
Yeah.
is there gonna be another house on top of that?
I don't know.
Because then,
Okay.
then we're talking another septic.
That's,
Let's, everything's addressed through the board.
yeah.
So there have been several concerns about adjacent septic systems. I would assume that the Board of Health, there's a grading plan that deals with all this. Usually, when they're approved, the drainage relating to the adjacent properties is addressed. That's also not in our purview.
Do you have enough, you've already built this house, do you have enough room to get back there to build your septic system?
Yeah, he's got like 20-some feet.
Yeah, on the other side, there's,
Oh, there's a lot of
23
land.
feet on the other side.
23 feet on the other side. Why'd you go so far to the left?
It's a narrow lot.
Because it's a small lot.
nice to have the space over there, you know, instead of having no space on either side. You
Are there any other abutters' comments?
I would ask the butters what they prefer. I don't want to spank him and punish them. Does that make sense?
Whatever we keep in
You know, and I'm sorry, you put these swales in, and I've seen them not accomplish diddly over and over again, especially, I mean, over in the lake area, poor Mrs., well, there are people who new houses like this have been built.
Is there a consensus among the I mean, you have a lot of complaints about the project. The only thing we are discussing today is a variance to allow a landing and steps down to grade.
So he can put what he's asking for is put a landing here and swing his steps down towards his garage. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have him bring in the dirt and do it, and just bring in the fill? What would you prefer?
I'd rather not have water coming into my yard.
Well,
Well, we need to make a decision which way.
They can't do
But whatever solution would,
Build the land.
Yeah.
And the stairs come sideways, right?
Only
Does the applicant have a design for the composite decking and such?
I haven't gone through that process because obviously I need a variance.
No, usually people
No, you
have a
have to
design
come
when
with
they
a-
walk
with a-
in.
then
Okay,
that tells us
I
what
don't
the-
have a design.
We can approve design versus just.
So, may I suggest
Like a landing, and then they come
that you have an inkling that we might approve a variance for a specific landing and steps, but you need to show us what that's gonna be.
You come back next meeting, because you have to put in your septic system anyway. I don't think it's gonna hold you up much, is it?
It's really just, the water line is close to where those stairs are, so I can't bring water into the house until I know what that solution is. So that means it's gonna hold.
Well, that's where you design it.
So how about this? How about you go and design some steps that are as least intrusive as possible?
And
And talk to your
stake it,
neighbors.
Put a stake in the front of your house to show your neighbors how far it projects into the setback.
And talk to your neighbors about what they would prefer and like, and so that they don't have to come back next time. You could get a letter from them saying that they believe this is the best design for the neighborhood, and that they like it, and maybe we can just rubber stamp something next time for you that they like and works for you. Does that make sense?
Whatever you guys wanna do.
Just for clarification, if he builds composite decking and steps, doesn't that make it part of the structure?
Yes,
That's
why
why
he needs the
So that's
variance.
why we can't grant a waiver for that unless we see the plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
If he were to stack up granite blocks
And dirt,
and
Good.
and
He can
do
dirt, or
whatever he
just
wants.
granite blocks, I mean,
Yeah.
it costs,
Yeah.
that he would not need
That's right.
to come
Because
before
it's
us.
considered landscaping.
So I guess the three options are lots of fill, which doesn't require a waiver, granite steps, which doesn't require a waiver.
But it would look a little awkward with
But I'm
the,
just saying from us.
Yeah, but he
you know.
wants to be able to sell
Or
this.
the third option, which is the one you've been talking about, is a composite deck and steps, in which case that is a structure. That you would have to come before us, and you would have to have a design. Because we can't.
We can't grant a variance without a specific dimension. I've seen variously 4 feet, 40 inches.
3 feet wide
Because
landings,
if we
4
provide
feet
a
wide
waiver, we
landings.
would have to provide dimensions on the waiver saying, yes, it would have to be within, but we don't have anything that we can apply a waiver for.
And you need to tell us how many steps,
Yeah.
why, how long that variance is gonna be.
Right.
You know, if you're gonna put a 3-foot wide landing, and then the steps, how long that's gonna take to get down to grade level, because that's the width of your variance. And please work with your neighbors.
Sure.
And you guys, you gotta realize, this is here now. You're gonna have to live with it, because we can't make it go away. and neither can you. So try to figure out what works best for you on this little part, because maybe we can help with this little part. Does that make sense?
So basically, go ahead and do it and ask for forgiveness.
Well,
Is that
it,
what we're going?
well, no, we can tell,
No,
we can
because
tell.
we can deny it. And then,
And then
by
he
the way,
fits within the
that's
zoning
what
bylaws.
I am, I would otherwise be inclined to do, because this was the case where it could have been avoided. However, and I agree with this, if you think it's best for the abutters and the neighbors think that it's least intrusive to have a structure inside the setback for these steps, then we would grant the variance. If not, he can landscape it and do whatever it takes to, make it better.
We can't stop him from bringing in the landscape and building it up, because he can do that by
And
zoning
it's-
right.
And I would say it's not in his interest to do something that's ugly,
wants to
as
sell
the
the house.
the steps up to their house. I mean, it can be a nicely, constructed stone and dirt thing. I'm a little concerned about the feeling about runoff, because I don't see in this case that would be an issue.
They're saying their septic system.
Nobody
is
should-
I know,
between-
but the runoff is
The runoff's
toward
down
the
toward the
street.
street.
Yeah,
It goes
so-
down.
It should be easy to keep.
So I don't think that's an issue. I think it's basically what you people, if you were against this structure, we would respect that. If you think that's the best for you, we will respect that.
We don't want to spank him at your detriment. Does that make sense? We want the best outcome for you guys, and if the best outcome for you guys is what he wants, then we'll give him what he wants. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I was the neighbor, I would rather not have the dirt brought up that steep right next to my property. I would rather have a little landing and the stairs shooting off away from my house and towards his driveway. But that's me.
So what we would like to do is to continue the hearing. It won't be noticed again, but it will be, what is the date of the next hearing?
The 17th.
17th. So would it be after Charles Bell's?
7:40.
Okay. So, this January 17th, there's a complication in that. I won't be here. I'm out of town. Can someone else?
We've chaired meetings before.
We'll have to ask
And we have
Sherry
Kitty
about- We'll
here.
have to ask Sherry about that.
Wait, get here.
Chairing it?
No,
No,
but
you-
there's not
you-
five that.
you won't
But
been present.
you've been here, so
Yeah.
that you don't have to
Just
watch.
to have the same
Okay.
five.
Sure.
We'll work that out.
Are the meetings on Thursdays?
Yes.
Always third Thursday of the month.
So,
Is the
at that
17th not a
point,
Thursday?
he will
Not a Thursday.
present,
It's a Friday.
No, the
if he hasn't
16th
shown you
at
already.
7:40.
Okay, 16.
Okay, if he hasn't shown you already what he plans to do, and I would stake it, put a stake and a ribbon on it to show where this is gonna be. We'll further consider this as a specific proposal, not just waving hands.
Does that make sense? Can you think of a better outcome?
So again, just to clarify, if he goes with fill or granite, he doesn't have to
He
come.
doesn't have to come back.
So if you go with fill and granite, you're on.
Yeah,
You don't have
if
to
you don't
come back.
think this is worth the
Which
trouble.
I can easily do, I just
Okay.
think this is what's best for the look of the house, for the neighborhood.
So if you can convince your neighbors of that.
Sure.
then
So,
we can-
so
He
talk to
doesn't
him,
have to convince them.
and if you guys, you can get letters from them, they don't have to come back.
If he's got dirt or
And-
granite,
Oh, no,
he
no,
doesn't
no,
have to
no,
come
he
with
says
it.
this.
You know, rubber stamp a design, then you don't have to be here on the 16th at 7:40. You will not get another notice, you understand that. You have to put that in your calendars yourself. All right, 16th at 7:40, but think about what works best for you, the abutters.
And also keep it modest, don't come in with a plan that brings it 6 feet closer to the street.
Keep it as small as I
As
can.
well as you
Yeah.
can.
Well, you got a very wide set of stairs there, so you put
Well, so with-
you make the narrow landing too narrow, it's gonna look
So-
stupid.
Well, yeah, and it's gotta be 36 inches, and with the composite decking, the railing begins almost like a foot in, so that's why I need the 4 feet instead of.
So, Do I have a motion to continue the hearing to January 16th at 7:40? Okay.
Second.
So moved and seconded? Okay, Rod. So we'll
All those in
continue.
favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
So we'll see you back.
Back from Barcelona, so I was hoping to.
I'm glad I'm not here.
Otherwise, I guess Joanne.
Okay.
I can be here physically, I can't promise
Are you Hannah's
mentally.
mom?
How's that?
That's fine, that's okay.
Oh, hi.
How is Hannah doing? Is she she's at the home stretch?
Yeah, how about your daughter?
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, where did she go?
She went to Emerson.
Emerson,
So,
Hannah went to Keene.
I see her, yeah.
You know, she already anticipates, you know,
Yeah.
whatever, you know.
I see her. Is she at Donlands anymore? We should adjourn. Yeah. Nice seeing you.
We adjourn?
Second
Are we letting our chair back
for the
in court?
motion to adjourn?
No, we can't adjourn yet.
Yeah.
We have to thank Shelley for all that she does for us.
Thank you.
And we have to thank Janet for all that she does for us.
Amen.
So, Shelley, Merry Christmas.
You're just making work for us. Thanks a lot.
That's just amazing how politely you were.
Yell at me all the time.
How polite she was explaining what the guy did.
Yeah.
I mean, that, you gotta be.
You were very polite about it.
Merry Christmas. And I will have to just point out that this meeting is when I miss Charlotte Rafferty the most. May she rest in peace. Charlotte used to come to the Christmas meeting with all the home-baked cookies
come
and
with
fudge
chocolate
and
kisses.
Christmas candies that Martha Stewart would have been
I'm wondering what
envious.
flavor those kisses are.
Hot cocoa with marshmallow.
They're really
Now I'll
yummy.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
We already had those down here.
So moved. Who wants to second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Then we hit the button.
Somebody hit the button.
Okay.